Hey friends, today I made a copycat version of Texas Roadhouse's Roadkill steak, along with all of the sides, including their salad. I made it homemade and it's delicious. Come along with me and I'll show you how. This year I'm focusing on copycat recipes, all of your favorites from restaurants, fine dining, anything that you normally have to pay a lot for. I'm trying to copycat it, make it at home, make it better, make it cheaper. And today we're making a Texas Roadhouse dinner. I'm gonna start with a salad. We're gonna do their homemade green beans. We're gonna make homemade mashed potatoes, because of course we need those on the side. And then we're gonna make that nice big roadkill steak, or that chopped steak with the Monterey Jack cheese and the mushrooms and the onions. It's gonna be delicious. We're gonna do it at home for a lot cheaper than if we went out to Texas Roadhouse, and we're gonna have leftovers, which makes this multiple meals, right? So come along with me, let's get the croutons and the eggs going so we can get ready for that salad, and then we'll put it all together at the end. Now for the croutons, I used a little bit of homemade bread that I had made in the bread maker, and I just sliced that up and cut it into little crouton-sized pieces. Now I think one of the best parts of Texas Roadhouse's salad is the croutons. You can tell they're homemade and they are delicious. So I wanted to make sure I mimicked that as well. So I'm just gonna put these in a bowl and I'll speed this up a little bit. To these croutons, I added a little bit of olive oil because they need some kind of oil on top of them to get nice and crispy when we bake them. And then I just tried to mimic what I thought theirs tasted like, and I thought they were kind of garlicky and salty and had like a little bit of an Italian style flavor. So I used some garlic powder, some Italian seasonings, and then some salt. And I used popcorn salt just so it would get down in those little nooks and crannies. It's just a finer salt than a regular table salt. And then you just want to season those and then shake this around or stir it around. You need to be careful that you don't break your bread if you had a drier bread. Now, my husband loves Texas Roadhouse, and his parents take him there every year for his birthday, and he always chooses the roadkill steak because he doesn't want them to spend too much money, but also because he loves it. So that's what I decided to make today, was that roadkill steak, because I thought any of us could make that at home, even if we're not that great at making steak. Now that these croutons are all seasoned, we're going to put them in the air fryer. I happen to have this kind of fancy Emerald Lagasse 360 air fryer. It does baking, rotisserie chicken, air frying, all the things. That's why it looks a little bit different. You can either bake these in the oven or you can put them in your air fryer, whichever works best for you. But after about 10 or 12 minutes, see how nice and golden brown they are? I cook them in that air fryer at about 400 degrees for 12 minutes, but that would really vary depending on where you cook them. Now let's get to this dressing. Texas Roadhouse has the most delicious homemade ranch. And I've been making homemade ranch for so long using this buttermilk recipe, Hidden Valley ranch packet. This is so good, but you have to get the buttermilk recipe one. That's the one that tastes homemade. All you need is sour cream and a splash of milk to kind of thin it out. You can pour it on top of your salad. Once you have it mixed together, if it needs a little bit more milk to thin it out, just add a little bit more at a time until it's that nice consistency that you can pour it on a salad. That's it, you guys. We're going to pop this in the fridge until everything else is done. Now, everybody knows how to make eggs, so I'm not going to show you too much there. I just boiled up a few eggs, but the thing about Texas Roadhouse is they chop theirs really small. So when you stir your salad around, you're getting egg in every bite, and I love that about their salads. So we're just going to chop these up into really small, fine pieces. And then, of course, you need that fresh shredded cheese, and I used a sharp cheddar. Now that's everything for the salad. I use a premium romaine salad blend that came from Walmart, and I just like to take my kitchen shears and chop it up a little bit so the pieces are a little bit more manageable to fit in your mouth. And there we go. Now let's go on to the beans. I'm going to start by frying up some bacon. You just need 4 strips of bacon, but since I was frying bacon, I just did the whole pound. And then I'm going to cut up 1 small onion, which I actually just used 1/4 of 1 large onion, about the same thing. And we're going to put that on the stove with a little bit of that bacon grease and fry that onion until it gets nice and soft. Now, it seems like I'm doing these in stages, but when I actually made this meal, I was making it all at once. I'm just kind of trying to edit the video so all of the recipes are together. Now, I did end up chopping the rest of that onion up into slices and putting it to the side because we're going to use that for the topping of our steaks. Now let's take a couple pieces of bacon, 4 pieces to be exact, chop that up, and we're going to add that into our beans. Now, this is interesting. What they use for their bean juice is actually chicken broth. Use your favorite chicken broth, but I love this powdered Weiler's chicken broth. So we're going to put about 1.5 cups into this recipe. I'm making 3 cans of green beans. So once our onions are softened, we're going to add in that chicken broth and then a couple cloves of garlic, which you could have added to your onions, but I had forgotten. So I'm going to add that to the chicken broth, and then I'm going to add in 3 cans of green beans. This is actually a pretty easy recipe. Now we're going to add in that chopped bacon, a little bit of salt and pepper to taste, and then we're going to just stir it till it's all combined, and that's it. We're just going to let these sit on the stove on a really, really, really low simmer, basically just to keep them warm and so they can soak up all that good flavor. Now the next step, we're going to go on to our potatoes. I make these potatoes just like I always make potatoes. I'm going to peel a few potatoes. I'll speed it up a little, but wait. This guy, he looked like a little guinea pig, so I had to show him on YouTube. How cute, right? So peel your potatoes. I think I did about 7 of them. This ended up being more than we needed, but that's okay. I cut those up into bite-sized pieces and put them on the stove to cook. The smaller your pieces, the quicker it'll cook. I added a little bit of salt to the water and just let those cook until they were fork tender. Once they were tender, I drained off that water, and then I put in half a stick of butter, a splash of heavy whipping cream, and a little bit of salt. And I love homemade mashed potatoes that are mashed with a potato masher. I used to always use my electric mixer to get them nice and smooth, but now I've decided that I like a little bit of lumps in my potatoes. They make them seem way more homemade if you have those little bit of lumps. So I just use a potato masher. Add more salt, more cream, taste them, make sure they're nice and creamy, and then you're done. And those can sit and wait for up to half an hour or more, so that's great to get them done ahead of time. Now we're going to get to these steaks. We're starting with 2 pounds of ground beef, 1 egg, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. I just sprinkled a little bit on. And then some of your favorite seasonings. So I like to use some minced onions. I use that in all my meatloaf or anything like that. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then I think a good steak rub is a perfect addition to this because these are chopsteaks, but we still want them to have that good kind of smoky steak taste. So I used a little bit of this Montreal steak seasoning. Get those gloves on and then get in there with your hands and stir that all around. We want to make sure the seasoning and the egg is all fully combined in all that meat. And I only shaped this in a little bit of a loaf so I could cut it in half and half again so I knew that my portions were equal. That's just a good little hack or little tip there to know how to portion out your meat. So then it doesn't matter what these look like. All that matters is that you shape them and that they're the same thickness all the way around. You don't want the middles thick and the ends thin because you want it to cook very evenly. So I just shaped these into 4 kind of misshapen patties. It was fine. Then we're going to bake these in the oven at 350 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes. After about 25 minutes, I did take their temperature because I wanted to make sure they were cooked all the way through. These are chopsteaks. We don't want them pink in the middle. We want them cooked through. While those were cooking, I got the toppings ready. So that was some fried onions and mushrooms. Season these with that same steak seasoning that you used for the meat. It'll really just kick them up a notch. And then we're just going to let those get a little bit brown on the stove. We're going to pull out our meat patties. Now, I baked these, and anytime you bake ground beef, you do get kind of this mess on your cookie sheet. So we want to get rid of that. So I just pulled these off, stuck them on a paper plate, dumped that off, and then we're going to put them back on. We just want to get rid of that kind of fat and all the stuff that comes out of your meat, just to make it look a bit nicer. And then I just put these back on, and now let's load them up. Texas Roadhouse loads up their roadkill with Monterey Jack cheese, their fried onions, and those mushrooms. So I put down one little layer of cheese first, kind of make that bind to that meat, and then I loaded it up with those fried onions and mushrooms. How can you go wrong with a delicious seasoned hamburger patty, fried mushrooms, onions, and Monterey Jack? I can already tell right now that these are going to be good. We're going to load them up with the rest of that Monterey Jack and put those back in the oven for about 5 minutes just to finish cooking. Now, while those finish up in the oven, we need to do one last thing, and that is make some gravy. And we're going to make it easy on ourselves, and I used a McCormick brown gravy packet. This is actually one of my favorite gravies, so I am not going to be ashamed of using a packet. It tastes good. Trust me, it takes just a few minutes to make. Now, you guys, we've made it to the end. We got everything done. Look at how good those roadkill steaks look. They are so juicy on the inside. We got our beans, our potatoes are done, and now our gravy is done. We're going to get this assembled onto a plate, and I cannot believe how good this turned out. Just like Texas Roadhouse, I'm going to serve my beans in a bowl because I want to put some of that delicious juice in there with them. Let them keep soaking up all of those great flavors. Our potatoes are nice and creamy. Nothing beats a yummy homemade potato. Let's put a little divot in there so we can stick in all that good brown gravy. And then that ooey gooey cheesy roadkill steak. That looks so good. Now let's get over to the counter. We need to make our salads. And of course we have all of those nice fresh ingredients. We got our lettuce, our freshly shredded cheese, that chopped up egg mixture that just makes it taste so homemade. Texas Roadhouse has one of my favorite salads from any restaurant. My next favorite would be Red Lobster, and then of course the Olive Garden. But I love Texas Roadhouses. Now those homemade croutons, they have that nice, soft, crunchy, airy texture, and then nothing beats a good homemade ranch. This did take some time, but it is 100% worth it, especially if you want to do it for a special occasion. You know Valentine's Day is coming up, right? Now let's get my husband's reaction. You guys, this might have been a little more complicated than Thanksgiving dinner. It's just everything needs to be made fresh. So, but that's okay. Here's what we ended up with, a delicious salad. What I love about Texas Roadhouse salads is the egg and the homemade ranch and those homemade croutons. So here we go. That's what's in here. You want to try it?
Sure.
So you got lettuce, egg, cheese, homemade ranch, and homemade croutons.
Before I ever take a bite, I'll tell you the two biggest perks for me, it's way quieter than Texas Roadhouse, and I didn't step on any peanut shells coming to the table.
Do they still do that?
I don't know, but they used to.
Yep. You know what it is? I love the egg. I love the homemade ranch, but those croutons, when you make them homemade, they're not as hard. They don't break your teeth. They're like airy and soft. And I used my own homemade bread for that. Like, that's a little bit overboard, but it just so happened that I had homemade bread, so.
Yes, you did great on that one.
I would put that up against Texas Roadhouse for sure. It tastes like it a lot.
Copycat for sure.
Okay, now let's do the beans.
Those are going to be hard to mimic, in my opinion. The ones at Texas Roadhouse are so good.
Onions, bacon, and chicken broth, and garlic, salt, pepper.
When we were talking about it before, I would have sworn they put like liquid smoke in them because that's how they taste.
Bacon
They're so good at Texas Roadhouse.
These are them. These are them, honey. Do you think?
Those are them.
Oh, these taste just like them.
Those are they.
This is like where you want to drink that juice. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, you guys. This is like a recipe I found online, tweaked a little bit, but yeah, this is them. Okay. Mashed potatoes and gravy. this you've had from me a million times. It's my own recipe mashed potatoes. Use butter, use cream, use some salt. It's delicious, you guys. Just make it simple. And my favorite, powdered gravy mix.
Mm.
We love that brown gravy here, so you can't go wrong.
Anytime you Wisconsinize potatoes by making it heavy cream instead, it's great.
Okay, now, I don't know about this. I already told them, I hope your mom doesn't watch this, but I already told them that you get this when you go out to dinner with your parents because you never want them to overspend on you. But you also do like it. And I thought it would be an economical main dish to show people if they wanted to make it at home and they're not great at steaks like I am. I mean, I'm not great at steaks is what that means.
I told y'all before I was a bachelor forever, and when I was in my early 20s, we had a cafe on the west side of town in my little hometown in Missouri, and I would go get a hamburger steak 3, 4, 5 times a week for lunch.
I'm going to try it.
I'm living a lot longer because I got married. What are we trying, the meat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I taste that Worcestershire right away. That is a good flavor. The cheese, the onions, the meat is so soft. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm rating my own dinner 10 out of 10.
I thought she did fantastic. I would say, also all I am is a dishwasher. She had no help otherwise. But she really nailed it. But what I would think is, I don't know if it's that much cheaper. I don't know. You can talk about all that. And sometimes it's nice to be waited on a little bit. And so I think sometimes you still deserve to go to Texas Roadhouse so somebody can wait on you. Yeah, because it's not fair that you have to do it for us all the time.
But if you wanted to stay home, especially for this Valentine's Day, and you, like, if you had a partner who helped, or if you did it together with someone, or you did some of this stuff early, because you could shred your cheese earlier and cut your onions and things like that, it wouldn't be too difficult. I mean, it does take some time. What time is it? It didn't even take me an hour and a half. Oh. So it's not that long. Maybe 2 hours. Can't remember when I started. Hour and a half or 2 hours. But this is good, and you know what I like about it? There are 2 left. I only have a half. You guys don't know about my mom is here. And we split one. She's about a quarter, and I have a little more than a half. And then you have a full one. So we're basically having this meal twice. So even if this at Texas Roadhouse was, what would you say, 50 plus a tip, you're talking $60 to $70, especially if you get drinks. And I have blackberry lemonade and you have soda.
Pepsi Zero.
So if you do this twice, there's no way this cost $120. So we're definitely saving money by doing this. We have bacon fried up for tomorrow morning breakfast because I used it to cook with this. We have a meal for tonight. So yeah, definitely save some money doing this. And it was fun. And we're having a snowy Saturday date day.
Yeah, and some football later, NFL playoffs.
If you have any other ideas for copycat recipes, put them in the comments below and I'll try them. But this one was fun so far.
Wonderful job, honey. I appreciate you and I love you. You did great.
Thanks.
Fantastic.
Thanks for watching.